Hello everyone, welcome to the Driver Mod. My name's Anthony, and before we get this video started, I did just want to let everyone watching this video know that we are in the middle of our 2,000 subscriber giveaway. We're going to be giving away 3 items. You're going to have 3 chances to win. All the details are going to be in the video. I'm going to post a link in the description below as well up in the corner above. So make sure you watch that video so you know how to enter. It's not going to be like a standard giveaway, so definitely watch that video if you're interested in winning one of our possible giveaways. Now, without further ado, let's get to your featured video. Hello, welcome to the channel, welcome to the Driver Mod, welcome to the GT350 and S2000 series that we've put together on the channel. Today's video, we're going to be comparing the manual transmissions and the drive lines, but mostly the transmissions. Both of these cars can make the argument that they have the best manual transmission available in a modern vehicle. All right, so first, we're going to talk about the drive lines of each vehicle, and that's going to be the drive shaft and the rear differential. Both these vehicles are rear-wheel drive, have a drive shaft that goes into a final drive rear differential that is a limited slip on both applications. The main differences between the two is the rear axle ratio in each vehicle, and then the drive shaft itself. The GT350 has a drive shaft that is a 2-piece drive shaft and a final drive ratio of 373, whereas the S2000 has a single piece drive shaft and a rear axle ratio of 410. Now we're going to get into the main topic of this video, and that is the transmission. We're also going to talk about the shifter feel, clutch feel, and the shifting experience to come up with the other 4 categories that these vehicles will be scored on. So we're going to start off with the descriptions of the transmissions. Both transmissions have internal oil pumps. The GT350 does have the additional transmission oil cooler. The S2000 does not have a transmission oil cooler. Moving into the internals of the transmission, both are well built internally. Both are designed to experience high RPM use, as both these vehicles rev to over 8,000 RPM. The GT350's transmission ratios: first gear is a 3.25 to 1. Second gear is 2.23 to 1. Third gear is 1.61. Fourth gear is 1.24. Fifth gear is your 1-to-1 ratio. Sixth gear is your overdrive. It has 1 overdrive gear, and it is a 0.63 to 1. And then reverse is a 2.95 to 1. Likewise, in the S2000, fifth gear is your 1-to-1, but the reverse gear is a little lower ratio. It is a 2.80 to 1. First gear is a 3.13 to 1. Second is a 2.04 to 1. Third gear is a 1.48 to 1. Fourth gear is a 1.16 to 1. Again, fifth gear is your direct drive, and sixth gear is a 0.76 to 1 ratio. Now let's go ahead and get in the vehicle and talk about the shifter feel. So the GT350 has a remote mounted shifter. And what that means is the gear shifter is connected to external linkage that connects to the transmission, which then transmits the inputs to the internal linkage inside the transmission. The shifter feel for the GT350 is very satisfying. It has nice short direct throws, very mechanically engaging. Goes into each gear nice and easily, with some input, of course, to increase the driver engagement experience. To engage reverse, pull up on the shift collar and go through the gate past first gear. And then the clutch feel. The clutch is relatively light, relatively speaking, compared to the S2000. It has a moderate grab point. It's all hydraulic, so it is somewhat numb and difficult to, tell where the grab point is, but when you're driving it, it's easier to tell. Just sitting here back and forth, I couldn't tell you where the clutch is actually engaging. But that's what you get with the hydraulic portion of the clutch system. Moving over to the S2000. Again, 6-speed manual. This is a direct mounted shifter, and what that means is the gear shifter is directly connected to the linkage inside the transmission. There is no external linkage that connects to the transmission linkage. It is a direct feel and input from the gear shifter into the transmission. Likewise, also has very short, nice mechanical engagement and throws. Goes into each gear nice and easily. Shorter throws than the GT350. Then also to engage reverse, you push down and over past 6th into the rear. So it's kind of the opposite of the GT350, where you pull the collar up and go towards first. S2000, you push down and go past 6th. So very mechanical feeling, shorter throws, and then the clutch feel is a lot stiffer than the GT350, a lot shorter than the GT350, and a lot more even feeling from top to bottom than the GT350. And what that means is the clutch pedal feel is consistent from top to bottom, whereas the GT350, because of the assistance spring that it has 2 different feels to it. The top half and the bottom half, the feeling of the pedal changes throughout the motion. Now we're going to go ahead and drive these vehicles and talk about how the transmissions, clutch, and shifter feel on the road. Because sitting here stationary, it's really hard to get an accurate depiction of, you know, the differences, similarities, pros and cons of each transmission. So let's go drive these two and see if we can determine a winner. Both these vehicles bring very, very well put together and satisfying experiences to the table. So picking a winner from this video or of this video is going to be definitely difficult to do. We will start with the GT350. All right, so driving the GT350, specifically focusing on the transmission experience. I can already tell you, before we even get into this portion of the video, this is going to be a difficult one. This is going to be a difficult one. Because admittedly, I drove the GT350 before I had driven the S2000. So automatically from there, you know, getting into the GT350 with, you know, the previous manual transmission vehicles I had driven before. Obviously, whenever you experience something first, it's hard to find something that's better, if that makes sense. It has to be significantly better for it to really be like, okay, that's down and away, you know, a better transmission, a better shifting experience, whatever you're looking for. But because these two are so close, the S2000, great transmission, it's not a clear cut and dry thing. So I'm just going to relay everything that I feel from driving these cars and shifting through the gears, and I will end up having to make a decision, but doesn't make me right, doesn't make me wrong. I am just simply here to relay information. The clutch feel, definitely, the GT350 is, unless you're familiar with it, is harder to drive than the S2000 is, I feel, in a sense of the clutch engagement. It's definitely trickier because of that different pedal feel that you get. But gear changes are nice, easy. Never once in either car have I been locked out of any gear. Both transmissions are well put together, well built units. I really have no complaints about the transmissions or the shifters in either of these vehicles. Almost effortless to go into each gear change. So downshifts are nice. Some of that is, you know, part of the throttle and everything, but in terms of the transmission, downshifts, upshifts, crisp, very, very engaging, very nice and solid mechanical feel. There goes the GT350 right there. Ford Performance Blue. So I guess we'll go back to talking about the transmission. Whew, man. I love it. You really gotta love it. I'm trying not to talk too much about what the S2000 is like until we're inside that car. So this shifter, you don't feel like it's disconnected from the transmission as you do in a lot of other cheaper manual transmissions. I'm mainly talking about the other manual transmission that's offered in the Mustang EcoBoost and the Mustang GT, the MT82. Everybody knows those are cheap. The remote mounted shifter, you just feel disconnected from the experience. The shift fork synchronizers, gear lockouts, it's just not a well-built unit. But this is a manual transmission. And really, the MT82 is what has held the Mustang back. As of 2020 model year, Ford came out with the Mach 1, and they deemed it was necessary and worth it to put the Tremec that's in the GT350 in the Mach 1. So that only speaks to the build quality and the performance level of this transmission. They deemed it was, so superior to the outgoing current transmission that was a manual offered in the Mustang, that they ditched it for their higher performance models, being the GT350 and then subsequently the Mach 1. So I think that is a feather in the cap of that transmission. It would be nice, if it was a unique transmission specific to this car, but we're talking about, a high level manufacturer or a high volume manufacturer. So that's what ultimately is going to keep costs down. These transmissions aren't, terribly expensive, but they're not terribly cheap either. They're built very strong from the factory. Only through boost have we really seen any of the weak links in the transmission. The clutch is pretty strong with boost for some several thousand miles. But for NA power, you should really never be experiencing any transmission issues, any clutch slippage issues. If you are, you need to learn how to drive. I've got 20,000 miles in this car, original clutch, original transmission, probably 15 plus track days, never been touched. So the only thing I've done to the transmission is I changed the fluid out, put the AMSOIL transmission fluid in it. I've done 2 drain infills of that. That's it. Otherwise, it's a stock unit. So let's go get in the S2000 and talk about that car, and then wrap up this segment with our points. So we'll see you in the S2000. In the S2000 now. Gonna give our impressions and feeling experience and relay that to you. That shifting experience, the more I drive these two cars back to back, and the more you drive them back to back, you really get to feel the difference, appreciate them both for what they are, as just a fantastic shifting experience. I mean, to pick a winner is almost disrespectful to the other one. They are both that good and that close. My only complaint with the S2000's transmission, with the GT350, it's the clutch feel. It's not that it's not engaging, through the travel. It changes weight, if you will. The S2000, it's not the clutch feel, it's the shifting experience when you're really going and winding through the gears and trying to get that quick shift. Honda introduced into the AP2 cars what they call a clutch delay valve. There's a valve inside the clutch slave cylinder that delays and slows down the clutch engagement upon letting out on the clutch pedal to engage the clutch, to reduce the amount of driveline shock going through the transmission, the driveline. Because I guess in the AP1, so many people were blowing up diffs. That's what they decided to do, to instead of re-engineering anything expensive, they just added this delay valve in. And when you're trying to accelerate down a quarter mile, which I'm taking this to the quarter mile drag strip, when you're trying to accelerate hard down a straight or on the highway or whatever, it's there's no getting around it unless you delete it, which I do plan on doing that eventually. But there's no way around it. There's no way to, like, you know, if you want to shift fast, hold the clutch pedal fast, it's going to happen every time. And that is the most frustrating experience, or part of the experience in the S2000. Other than that, I've got no complaints. It would be nice to, you know, if I had information available to me to see what kind of temperatures the transmission oil is getting up to, like you can in the GT350. That's just because, you know, this is an older car. That wasn't really commonplace back then. But I would like to see what kind of temperatures it's getting up to. I mean, it does have an internal oil pump. They both have internal oil pumps for the transmissions, but the GT350 does have that transmission cooler. And without it, the GT350 transmission will go into limp mode after a 20-30 minute track session. So I guess I got to do more research on that to see how many people are having issues, or is the car just, if it doesn't know the transmission temperature, is there a, you know, a limp mode for the transmission, or are people, you know, are they overheating the transmissions and not even knowing it? So that is something I definitely need to look into. But yeah, when we're talking about the manual transmission and shifting experience in the S2000, we're definitely in a special car. I love driving both. I love shifting both. Again, I find myself asking the question, why am I doing this to myself? Because really, am I really going to say anything in these videos that the enthusiasts of each car don't already know? Probably not. Am I going to say anything that's probably going to upset somebody on one side or the other? Probably. But it's just about just enjoying the cars. And since I've put out that I'm doing this, I've met 6 other owners of GT350s and S2000s that also have the other one. So that's awesome to me. That's how you know both cars are well done, both cars are satisfying to drive. When you have not just one person, me, having both cars have mechanical limited slip differentials, which is awesome that, you know, it's not electronic. There was that delay valve. rather have. If I could have got, you know, the AP1 driveline in the AP2 body, that's what I really would have wanted. It's kind of a shame that nobody appreciated the engine more or less in the AP1 and whined about the lack of power, and they got their 9 foot-pounds of torque and sacrificed 1,000 RPM of driving experience. Like, to me, that's a pointless trade-off, because when you're on the track, you're never going to be, you know, in those low power situations. So I think it was an overreaction, and Honda should have just told people to shut it. But it is what it is, because I feel like the AP2 is missing that. And then you combine it with the transmission, clutch delay. The AP1 is almost willing to say it is the better experience. AP2 is a better car, but the AP1 is the better experience. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. Even right now, as I'm speaking, I don't know fully which one's going to get which point. Well balanced. I almost want to just call it a tie, you know, but we're not going to take the easy way out. We are going to award 5 points. All right, so that is going to conclude the comparison of the transmission and the driveline of both the GT350 and the S2000. Big thank you to Ford and Honda for producing these vehicles and putting these transmissions in these cars. Well done. Let's get to the points. This was tough. I told you it was tough during the video, and I even sat down for 5 to 10 minutes after driving both to really think about where each point was going to go. There were a couple sections that were easier than others, but the majority of them not very easy at all. The first portion of the video, we talked about the driveline and the differential. I just kind of needed like a fifth segment as part of the video and fifth thing to judge both these vehicles on, and the winner of that point is going to be the S2000. Both cars again have mechanical limited slip differentials, but the biggest thing to me that is a huge difference in the driveline is the drive shaft. The S2000 has a one-piece drive shaft, whereas the GT350 has a two-piece. We're going to talk about category-wise is the clutch. Again, the GT350 is purely hydraulic. Changes the pedal feel as you shift through it or as you travel through it, and isn't as constant as the S2000 is. And for that reason, and pretty much that reason alone, is all I need to award the S2000 the point for the clutch. Portion of the video that we talked about was the actual transmission itself. Again, both transmissions, 1 overdrive gear, 6 total forward speeds, a reverse gear, and direct drive is 5th gear in both cars. The GT350 and S2000 transmissions both have internal oil pumps. The GT350 does have the additional transmission oil cooler. The last two topics were definitely the hardest to decide between the two, and that was the shifter feel. Even right now, even after going over 10 minutes in my head about which one is better, still finding it hard to decide between the two. We have the remote mounted shifter in the GT350. We have the direct mounted shifter in the S2000. We have shorter throws in the S2000 and slightly longer throws in the GT350. But as far as the points are concerned, we are going to be going with the S2000. Having driven both cars spiritedly on the track, driving them every day, putting some miles on them, if I could split the point up in half and take the easy way out, I would, but we're going to pick one car and one car only in each of these segments, so the winner of the point for the shifter feel is going to be the S2000. That is not a knock or in any sort of matter disrespect towards the GT350, because that is also a great transmission. So blow me up in the comments. That's up to you. I am just merely pointing out my feelings when it comes to these two cars. Of course, you know, trying not to be biased here. And then the last point goes towards how they are on the road, and that's where, again, it's tricky, it's tough, and not easy. My biggest complaint, or this is where the biggest complaint with the S2000 comes back up, and that is the clutch delay valve. Had this been an AP1 without the clutch delay valve, this may be more, it may have made it easier, but you just can't get away from it. It is very intrusive and very annoying. I will say, even clutch delay valve aside, it is easier and you feel more confident driving the GT350's transmission in an aggressive and spirited manner. And what I mean by that, the S2000, while it has never locked me out of a gear, it does sometimes feel as if you not miss the shift, but you almost have to look down to make sure that you're going into, because the gear shift linkage is so close and the throw is so short. It's not a knock on the transmission to be like that. It is just stating, you know, how it feels. But I do find myself at times in driving these cars in a spirited manner, the S2000, I sometimes have to look down at. Maybe it's because I'm not too, you know, as familiar with it as I am the GT350, but I do feel more confident driving the GT350 in a spirited and aggressive manner and really banging through the gears. I mean, I know a lot of S2000 owners that say, you know, these transmissions, they feel fragile, but they're well built. But at the same time, they're not made to really, you know, bang into gears. So I don't intentionally try to bang in gears ever. I try to take care of my cars and drive them in an aggressive manner with the least amount of, you know, damage as possible. So in terms of how they feel on the road, the point for that I'm gonna have to give to the GT350. It's just a more confidently driving transmission experience. I'm not saying it's more satisfying. Both cars are very satisfying to drive on the road, and by no means am I trying to take away anything from either of these cars. But in terms of which car's transmission feels better when shifting aggressively on the road or at the track, and just everyday driving, we're going to give the point for that to the GT350. So that is going to conclude the drive line and mainly the transmission segment of this series, with the winner of the video being the S2000. It got 3 out of the 5 points. So I hope you found this video informative, entertaining as always. I'm really trying to you know, take two cars that are very different, but what I'm trying to show is they're very similar in the way into what they're trying to achieve. I'm not trying to settle any arguments once and for all, which car is better, which car, you know, which transmission is better. I mean, because even now I'm having a hard time, you know, agreeing with what I just said, and could easily flip-flop both cars in either one of the categories. So again, this is all my opinion. I could happily give a point to the GT350 for the transmission shifter. The shifter in that car is amazing, and I could easily give the point for the transmission overall to the S2000. They're just that close. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes in this series. Again, this is a 5-part series, so I hope you enjoyed it. Drop some comments down below. Whatever. I want to hear it all. I want to hear the feedback. I want to hear what you have to say. Where do you think I was wrong? What did I miss? You know, I'm not an expert by any sort of the matter. So if there's something that you can add in the comments down below that would help viewers and inform them, that'd be appreciated. Just try to leave the bias out of this. You know, I'm doing my best to keep the bias, you know, away from the GT350 or the S2000. I'm really trying to, you know, as much opinion as there is in this series, I'm trying to justify those opinions with, you know, with what I feel and what I see. And if there are any facts, I will bring those up as well. So thanks for watching this episode on the Driver Mod, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.